In this tutorial, we'll speak about using APIs which are not within flows documented by default. As you know, we have a very long list of APIs and collections, etc. But what if you don't have your API call available? Well, then you can actually still call the API, the endpoint, and actually make a collection yourself. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to use Rapid API Hub. That's an interesting hub just for testing purposes. And I'm going to use a movie database. So we have a movie databases on the Rapid API website. And if we take a look at that movie databases, you can simply click on this. You need to have an account, by the way, for Rapid API, but all of this is free. Then you can find here a number of calls that you can do. And if you do here a random call, then it expects apparently something that can be used with lists. So this is not correct. Let's take a little look at what we expect. Lists at the bottom. And there's an example, most pop movies. Let's use that one. Movies. And let's test the endpoint again. Okay, now it's returning results. We can see here title of movies probably. Skyline, okay. Another one. Same here. Title fighting. Okay, good. Now in the code snippet we can see what's required to run this call. We need to get to this URL and we need to provide some query parameters and we need to provide also a header that contains a few keys. So let's see how we can call this in flows. Okay, so create a API call and let's fill in some details here. I'm going to fill in the company name. I'm going to call it Rapid API. I'm going to give it an API name. Let's call it the first. We're going to fill the application name. Let's call it movies. And then the API name itself, we're going to call random movies. There is a reason why I'm filling this in, by the way, because it will be then showing on the left-hand side as an API call that we can reuse. Let's copy the API call URL. So the host name, and let's do it properly with the base path. The HTTPS has to go, of course. So titles, random, base path. We're going to use titles. And as the path itself, we're going to use random. Okay. Now we also need to provide a number of things. We need to get and we need to provide some headers. Let's see the get, that's already correct. And now let's map some parameters. Header parameter, and I need to give it a certain name, which we can find here in the example. So Rapid API key. Let's fill it in. Now let's copy and paste that key. And another parameter, also a header parameter, because we needed two for the X Rapid API host. So we need to change the name, of course. And now fill in that parameter, copy and paste it from here. Okay, that's done. We also need a query parameter. Query with the name, I believe it was lists or list. List, yeah, That's what we need. So list. And the parameter, the value for that parameter. Let's fill it in as well. Okay, let's run this. First, let me change the name to custom API calls. And let's run it. Okay, completed running. It was successful. Let's take a look at the response. Received response body. It has an array of 10 elements. And here we can see under the title text, the Tomb of Ligela, I think. So it has returned 10 objects. Remember that I filled in all these details, company and API name, etc. And that's to organize on the left-hand side my connectors. As you can see on the left-hand side, we have CyberArk and Slack, but there's also now a Rapid API. And that's because I filled in all those details. So if I click now here on Rapid API, and I drill down a little bit, and I have the movies, then I have the random movies, and under the random movie, I have the operation being the call that I just made. So we have saved what we've just done. And we can actually, take a look at some details here. So if you click on that little icon there, the gear icon, then you will find here JSON information with all the things that we have just entered. And it's even possible if this API call would have under the info, you will also find an OpenAPI Swagger file. So something that you could download and import, for example, into another Flow instance. Now, if you have an API which has an OpenAPI definition or Swagger definition, then you could upload that information. So if you click here on the upload, then you can browse for a file, and I'm going to use an example that you can find on GitHub. On GitHub, you can find the OpenAPI specification for the pet store. I'm going to use a pet store JSON and download that one. So it contains the whole definition of all the APIs available. So let's download this and now upload it into Flows. Let's browse for it. Okay, and now we have that JSON imported. Let's save it, but you need to provide some things like the company name, application name, so the things that we've done before when we were calling that custom API. So let's call it pets and pets shop. Some description, something, application logo. This needs to be a link to a PNG file, for example. The icon then for the API call will change. Just getting it to give it a fictive name, and we give the API name. I'm going to call it all pets. Some description for the API itself. And now let's save this. Application. Oh, okay. I need to add the HTTPS in front of the link, of course. Let's save it. Now it may be that this is not directly appearing. It may require a browser refresh. But as you can see here now, I have the whole definitions with all the API endpoints that we can call, provided by that JSON file that we received with that OpenAPI or Swagger format.